Hello and welcome back to Miranda Reads the International Book Along List. Do 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 do. Hello, my name is Miranda and today I have a positive review for you. Yay! So far I have been successfully alternating my international book reading between books I liked and books I did not like, and I've read 4 and it's going pretty well so far with that pattern. So hopefully, I mean, I'd rather not dislike any of them, but you know, if it's going to happen, having it nice and alternating is pretty good. So today, the book that I liked is Mother Dead by Vigdis Hjorth, translated by Charlotte Baslund from Norwegian. And this is the first of Vigdis Hjorth's books that I've read. However, I have looked into her other books and they sound really interesting, so I'm probably going to go towards those soon. So, Is Mother Dead is about a woman who is estranged from her family and then moves back to Norway from the US, where she has been living. And over the course of the book, she becomes gradually obsessed with getting back into contact with her mother again, after not having spoken to her for many years. I can't remember how long exactly, and also having not been in close proximity to her for a very long time, and now they are living in the same city. So this book is primarily about art and family and the effect that the creation of art can have on the people around us. It's obviously also about dysfunctional family relationships and particularly mother-daughter relationships. And the interesting thing about this that I did not realise until after I'd finished it is that Hjorth has a very personal relationship with this. So if you don't know, which I didn't before getting into this and researching Hjorth after reading the book, she published a book called Will and Testament in 2016 in Norwegian. It came out in 2019 in English, and there was a lot of controversy surrounding it because the book is about a woman in her 50s who completely upsets her family dynamics by claiming that her father sexually abused her as a child. And Hjorth's family were incredibly upset by this, to the point where her sister published her own novel in response to this, about the trauma of a sibling's dishonest autobiographical novel. And the reason this kind of came about is because of similarities between the narrator of Will and Testament and Hjorth herself, and also the kind of convincing reality of the narrator and her inner world, which is also true of Is Mother Dead. And I suppose this book contains a lot of similar themes to Will and Testament, with the focus being on an artist who is in her 60s, and she is desperately trying to get her family to face up to their problems and their pain that they have experienced and somewhat suppressed. And also because the estrangement between the narrator and her family in Is Mother Dead was caused by the narrator's art that depicted a mother and a child in a not so favourable light, and the narrator family were publicly humiliated by this art that the narrator created, not just upset that at the implication that their child had negative feelings and a negative relationship with her mother. That's not really mentioned. It's the fact that the narrator brought public shame to the family by suggesting that her mother was anything less than perfect. This book is such a stunning depiction of a fully realised inner world, which is full of anxiety, overthinking, pain and existential emotional turmoil. It's a lot being in this character's head, but it also reads so easily because it just feels like you are caught up in someone's mind. Especially there are some sections which switch to the narrator's memories of childhood and her perspective of being this child who is so desperate for her mother's approval and love. And it is just heartbreaking to read because it really puts you in that place. It's also very much about the narratives that we create about ourselves and about other people. The narrator keeps creating these incredibly vivid and detailed pictures of what her mother and her sister are feeling and doing at any given time, and you have to keep reminding yourself that they're not real and that this isn't actually what's happening, it's just what the narrator is kind of conjuring up for them. And she also forgets, she also occasionally reminds herself, oh, but you know, I don't know what they're doing or what they're feeling, but you can feel her convincing herself, and also convincing you. You also realise as the book goes on that the narrator's mother has also been telling a kind of story about herself as well. And this kind of starts with how at first the narrator and her mother got on really well and they were kind of a team, and understood each other. And then as the narrator gets older, her mother kind of starts suppressing certain parts of herself, and almost turns against her daughter, because it's easier that way. And again, the reading from the perspective of a child who is experiencing this, of a parent kind of turning away from them and rejecting them, it hurts so bad. But also this is all how the narrator sees it, so we don't know. And a big part of what she's trying to figure out is what exactly happened, you know, why her mother was kind of turning against her and why their relationship went sour. The narrator draws her mother several times. Obviously there's the art, the pieces of art that kind of caused their estrangement originally, but also in the timeline of the book she draws her mother several times and as a child, and all of these kind of depictions have quite dramatic consequences, and are very significant. And also, of course, Hjorth as a writer is creating all these narratives and stories of her own family and the relationships within it, within the book itself. Like, the book in itself is a narrative that she is creating. The narrator also tells stories and narratives about herself and kind of constructs herself in relation to her family, and also as a mother herself. She has a child and a grandchild, but they are very absent from the book. The narrator mentions occasionally that she's very worried about kind of passing on her own pain to her child as her mother passed her pain on to her. That's a complicated sentence. She also mentions that she is convinced that she would act differently to how her mother is acting if her son was in the same position as she is. But if the kind of absence of her son is anything to go by, you can kind of see that sort of cycle continuing. I can see lots of criticism of this book happening because people will say it's too long, because essentially nothing happens for the first 80%. That's not an exaggeration. When I say nothing happens, I mean nothing happens. And I think some parts could have been cut out, but I loved all of it. So while it probably could have been shorter and achieved a similar thing, all of the stuff that is in there, I think, contributes to forming this really complex, like, psychological portrait of the narrator and also her family. So I wouldn't say that it's overlong, but if you don't want to read a book where nothing happens for about 250 pages, just don't bother. Maybe this isn't for you, because that's what happens, and if you're not prepared for that, then you'll probably be quite annoyed by this. But essentially, I loved it, and I reckon it's an 8.5 out of 10. Yeah, it's it's just gorgeous, and I really, really loved it. So if you wouldn't mind nothing happening for 250 pages, highly recommend. So that is International Booker 2023 book number 3. I have already read my 4th one, won't tell you what it is though, spoilers, and I'm about to start my 5th, and it's going okay. I'm getting through them. I still have 9 left to go, I think, which is a lot of books, but I'm doing all right. I'm doing okay. Anyway, please let me know what you thought of this book if you've read it, and any other things you want to put in the comments. I don't care. Have a little chat down there, and hopefully I will see you very, very soon. Thank you very much for watching.